Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Influencer Secrets, and for the first time ever, we have a very special guest. I figured that you were tired of hearing me just talk. But before we get to Mr. Krisp herself, just a little friendly reminder to like the video and subscribe and comment and ask questions and do all of those things, because those things matter.
They do matter.
So we have Mr. Krisp.
Yes, that's me.
That is you. So what I like about you, Jess, is that, you know, this whole influencer world is sort of like very much in the phone, I guess. Like everything I do is like I just create content. It's on Instagram, it's on YouTube, it's on wherever. It's not really like real world stuff. What I like what you do is that it came from the real world, and it's still in the real world, and you're an influencer, and you have a mix of everything. I think it's just like a nice different perspective on being an influencer. So for those that don't follow you, what exactly is Mr. Krisp? What do you do?
So I have an Instagram account where I make and share creative Rice Krispies treats. So they look like anything you could possibly imagine. So I started out, I did a lot of foods, but now I do portraits and people's pets and really a wide variety. You really honestly have to check it out to understand what I do.
Yeah.
Like I'm constantly whipping my phone out and showing people what I do, because you really can't, and I'm a writer and I can't even explain it in words. So so it's really fun. I have amassed a sizable following, nothing like you, but it's growing. And I definitely consider myself to be a baker first, even though, I mean, it's complicated because Rice Krispies treats actually aren't baked, they're cooked.
Right, okay.
So, but like I'm a dessert maker, but there's no like cute word for that first. But there is an arm of my business that is digital and based on social media, so.
But it started non-influencer, right?
Well, yeah, it definitely started I mean, influencer wasn't a word when I started Mr. Krisp. So it started, so I worked in fashion for 7 years before I did this. I was managing the department store sales for a women's contemporary brand, and I had all of this extra creative energy left over because I was just in a sales job. And so I started doing weird projects whenever I could. And I didn't know how to cook. And I'm starting to learn how to cook, but like now, like years and years later, but I didn't know how to cook. And the only thing I knew how to make was Rice Krispie treats. My best friend taught me how to make them. And so when I moved into a new apartment in 2012, I was like, I'm gonna be an adult and I'm gonna cook for my friends when they come over. What can I make? Scrambled eggs or Rice Krispie treats. So I'd make the Rice Krispie treats, and I would always mold them into a fun shape, like a heart or a star. Like I did a Jewish star for Hanukkah, like a broken heart on Valentine's Day. And after about a year, so I was invited to a potluck dinner with one of my best friends, and neither of us knew how to cook, and we were like, what do we bring? So she was like, why don't we make a Rice Krispie treat surfboard? Because our friend was a surfer. And so I Googled Rice Krispie treat surfboard. It was 2012, like I was 27 years old. I still Google everything, what am I saying?
I Google everything always,
And
you said the word Google and you mentioned something, and my Google Home is now giving you the answer for what you just asked.
What did I ask?
You said I Googled how to make Rice Krispies, and now Google is telling you. What a world we live in.
We live in the future. What do we do? How do we tell it? We're done. Thank you. Love you. That was amazing. So I looked on the internet for a recipe for a Rice Krispie treat surfboard, and the recipe contained food coloring.
Okay.
And it never occurred to me to add food coloring to that recipe. And when I did, it was so vibrant and so perfect, and I just had this like immediate and overwhelming impulse. I call it my Oprah aha moment. I was like, I need to make a Rice Krispie treat cheeseburger now. So I went home the next day, I made the cheeseburger. It was a Sunday night, and I posted it. So I first of all, I put all the pieces together and I screamed out loud because I just thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I was like, I could not believe that I'd made something so cool. And I remember it was like 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. I posted on Instagram. You know, back then.
It was on your personal Instagram?
It was on my personal Instagram. It was literally like pictures.
No one had Instagrams for like their things.
No. There were no business Instagrams. It was my personal Instagram. I posted it and I broke 100 likes for the first time. And I was like, okay, I'm onto something. Like, not only did I really enjoy making this, but I'm getting a lot of attention from people that like aren't necessarily in my direct network. I brought it into work the next day. It was the office holiday party. Everyone there freaked out. And I really enjoyed making it, and I really enjoyed the response from people. Like, attention's fun, and adulation's fun, but it was also really nice to make something that people seemed to be delighted by.
Yeah.
So I kept doing it. So I kept experimenting for like a year, and I was making all foods back then. So it was like an ice cream cone, a bagel and lox, rainbow cookies were something I did. Just really sticking to food for the first year, a taco. And then about a year later, almost like 9 months later, in October 2013, I started to notice that there were accounts popping up on Instagram that were just content-based, that just weren't a personal. I also was like in a situation where like I'd post a Rice Krispie treat on my Instagram and I'd break 100 likes every time, and then I'd post like a picture of myself or my dog and I'd get like 47 likes. So I was like, maybe we should separate this.
This is still my life.
So I actually like took the account. I put the account up and took it down like 3 or 4 times because it just felt like such a big deal. And I just didn't want it to fail. But I didn't really have a lot of expectations. But I put it up in October 2013, and I put a little email on there. And the first day that the Instagram went live, I got 3 orders.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and just people at the time, and still, people are always looking for the cool new thing for their PR events. It was all PR agencies and like one engagement.
Okay.
People are always looking for what's cool and new.
Yeah.
And so I guess that day I was that. Meanwhile, what I was making looked like garbage. It's so embarrassing that I sold this stuff to people, but it was the best I could do at the time, and I've learned so much over those years. But I started the Instagram account, and it started to blow up. I was getting all these orders all the time. And at the time, I really wanted to leave my job and go back to grad school.
Yeah.
So it just felt like the right time, since I now would have this secondary source of income, and I could go do that. So I applied for school. I went. I wasn't working. And by the time I graduated, it was a 2-year program. By the time I graduated, I had a book deal. I had a full-blown business. I'd worked with Rice Krispies twice. It was wild. And so now I'm sort of at, a different phase of the business, but it's been really cool so far.
And what's been, so you mentioned like having the book and working with Rice Krispies and stuff, and I think like that's a lot of the questions I'll always get is like, how do we do that? Like, how do we find these people? How does this happen? Like, how did those things happen? Was it just like, I mean, for me, what I was stressed is like, you were doing something cool and creative, and people find you when you do that kind of stuff. Is that sort of the same process you went through?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's funny, I always say that, like for the first, from the time I started the Instagram until I worked with Rice Krispies, that was a year. And for that entire year, every single person I spoke to was like, why aren't you working with Rice Krispies yet? Why haven't they found you? And now people they're like, oh, you must have a partnership with Rice Krispies, right? Like it's the first question that everybody asks.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, they, for a while with Rice Krispies, it was a little complicated. I was actually, when I started out, a little nervous, because you worry about copyright, trademark, that kind of stuff.
Right,
because
it
is a branded product. I was scared. I was like, oh, are they going to come after me? I was like being so careful with everything I did.
Right, and like then, in TV, we would always have to say like, we couldn't
Crispy
say
Rice treats.
Yeah, something stupid like that.
I know all of those. Yes, because a lot of the time I still will go on TV shows where you can't use the actual product name, but I was really nervous that they were going to come after me in a negative way, and they were like, hey, we want to work with you.
Oh, even better.
So yeah, it's awesome, and that relationship has evolved and continues to evolve. And so that's how that happened. And in the book, again, like someone reached out to me. She actually messaged me on Facebook. She's a literary agent now. And she was like, hey, I think this is a book. And I was like, cool. I'm in grad school right now. Can I call you in 2 years? She was like, no, you need to do this right now. So we put together a proposal, and it was like it was like one of those things where I like keep pushing her off, and she's like super tenacious and just she's amazing. And every time I'd get like a big burst of press, she'd be like, now's the time. And so finally, like one day we did it, and we got a publisher, and so that happened. But it's a lot of what you said. Like if you're doing something it's not only cool, like something that's unique and authentic.
Yes,
I think a lot of people and a lot of what happens in sort of the field of influence, which like can you like that's a thing. The field of influence is that people will just try to emulate what other people are doing.
100%.
And nobody cares. There's already someone doing that.
And when there's no passion, I give this example with food a lot. Is like, I'll literally meet people and they'll be like, they'll ask me how I started my account. I'll go through the whole thing. And they're like, oh, why did you start your account? And like, I wanted free food. Like, that's not really the point of any of this. And I think like that shows in the account, because like you're not going
Right.
to care about what you post, you're not going to
Right.
care about the food, you're not going to care about the content. And at some point, people are just like, yeah, there's 10 million, and like, yeah, someone could see you and like be like, oh, I could just make some stupid treats or something. But no, you were so passionate about it, and like that's what comes through in everything you do, and like that's why it
People
works.
can tell when you're not excited about
100%,
something.
yes.
And that's the same thing with partnerships. So I'm pretty particular about what I'll accept, because if it's something that like really just does not jive with my business, it's gonna come through.
Right,
And
it doesn't
it's
make
like,
sense.
listen, like some of these companies, I'd love to take their money, right? Like, you know, it's you know, I make Rice Krispie treats for a living. I obviously need money, but at the end of the day, like I know that like as much as you know, I have a lot of followers, they're not going to respond to this. Like they're following me because they're following a dessert account. So
Right.
if you want me to, you know, advertise like, you know, a tax lawyer, like that's not
But
gonna appeal.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it doesn't appeal to you necessarily. I think that's a good reason why you shouldn't do it. But I do think that you do have something where you could literally do anything.
I can.
And that's what I talk about
Right.
with food too. Everyone's like, how do you justify food? I'm like, most of my deals aren't food. It's just
Right.
like, I make it work. Like,
Right.
I was going to example like,
Lifestyle.
yeah, like, or even like if I work with a car company, which I'm about to work with. All right, well, I got to drive to go eat somewhere. Like, you just
Right.
make it, and like, you could make treats out of anything.
Right.
You could make like a little calculator for the tax people or something.
Exactly. No, I mean I could.
It might
It's
not be on
just-
brand and no one
Right,
would care,
but-
but at least like you have that the ability.
Right, but there is that moral imperative to understand that like maybe, you know, it's
Yeah.
not the right partnership for them.
100%.
Like maybe, you know, because like I understand that my followers aren't, I'm starting to understand what they respond to, and
Yes.
it's like not always that.
Yes, 100%. I think
And-
I go
yeah.
through that a lot. It's just like, I'm not so passionate about it. I don't think they're going to care about it. Yes, I could just
Yeah.
steal your money and post
Right.
something because at the end of the day, whatever. But I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And I think like the more you do that too with your followers, the less they'll engage with those ads that are for them.
Exactly.
They don't trust you anymore.
Exactly.
And that's by far the biggest thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important. I always say the number one thing when people ask me how I got to where I was, I've been really authentic.
Yeah.
The whole time. Like, there have been certain times, and you can even sense, like, my mood, like, at certain times when you go through by what I post and by how serious my captions are. And that changes and shifts, and I
Yeah.
don't have, like, a tone that I'm married to. I just, like, do what I feel, and I think that, but, you know, I am, and I have become a lot more thoughtful about everything I put out, just
Okay.
because it's, you know, it is becoming a content business.
Yeah, 100%.
So weird.
What is the split of your business now between like partnerships and stuff online and like orders and stuff like that?
So for me, it changes every week. So sometimes I find myself doing a lot of customer orders. If I have a big order, then I'll say I can't take any partnerships that
Yeah.
week, and vice versa.
Okay.
It really depends. It also depends a lot, I've noticed, on what I post. So if I post something, I'll get a lot of orders for that kind of thing.
Right,
and
right.
just like what I'm doing tends to beget more of that same kind of thing,
Yeah.
which is fun when it's good stuff.
Yeah.
But there's no actual pattern to it. It's, you know, like sometimes, like this week I have one partnered project and probably like 10 orders.
Okay.
But
Still a lot.
Yeah, but and like some weeks, I mean, like some weeks I'll have up to 20 orders. Like
Okay.
it's, you know, I can only take as many orders as I can fit
Right.
in the freezer space I have.
Where are you making all these?
I make everything at home still.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, no,
Amazing.
it's a real one-person operation, and I like it that way. I also, you know, because of that, I can work whenever I feel like it. So if I feel like it's a beautiful day and I feel like I kind of want to just like go be outside, read a book, that's
Yeah.
fine. And then I go home that night and I put in a full day of work
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah.
So I think.
So you do a lot of stories now. My favorite part about your stories are when you're taste testing things. Is this something where you're like, oh, my audience engages with this is fun, or you're like, I like tasting cookies. Then we just like let me taste all the new Oreo flavors. How did that start?
So that also happened very similarly to the way I started the business in the first place. It happened by accident.
Okay.
So I think at first I was doing them on Snapchat.
Okay.
Because there weren't Instagram stories.
Right, yeah.
And so those are gone and I don't even know what they might have contained. But I think I started doing them. I did one, I actually remember where I was. I was in the back seat of my friend's car. We were in DC.
Okay.
And we were going to Mount Vernon, home of George Washington. And I saw they had coffee nut M&Ms at 7-Eleven, and we just bought a bag. And I did a taste test on my Snapchat. I started getting a lot of messages, people asking me more, being like, wow, like you really have a gift for describing these different things. And I kept doing it. It was fun. Like it became like a little shtick. And then it was always M&Ms. And then I kind of expanded beyond that as more and more treats started to come out with novelty flavors. The one thing I have to say is that sometimes I run into issues where like you worry about like, when you're under contract and you can't sort of review everything. I'm sure you deal with that too, with exclusivity. Right. But it's really, I love doing taste tests. Have
brands started just sending you snacks? Have they caught on to this yet or no?
Some have, which is nice. Like they're just starting to catch on.
Okay.
It's always so funny. Like, people are like, oh, influencers get so much swag. And I'm like, I have a box of candy bars and like a blow up chair with the name of a taco chain on it. Like
this is my problem.
This is my life. So no, but I love that swag and like it all goes to good use. Actually, the weirdest thing I ever got was I went to an event and in the gift bag was a Bluetooth blood pressure monitor. I still have
That's useful though. I would probably keep that, like, just in case. I don't know.
In case what? Would you know how to, like, what's a good blood pressure? I don't know.
I don't know, but if it saves you a trip to the doctor.
Look it up on the internet. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think if I had a blood pressure issue, I'd want to go to a doctor.
I guess so, but
either way,
I feel like my mom would call me like, "What's your blood pressure?" Like just like being nervous about something.
Yeah.
Just like being a Jewish mother, and I can be like, "Well, no, here it is. It's 100 over 30. I don't know. I have no clue.
I have no idea. But that's the weirdest thing I've ever gotten.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there's one tip for like the feed itself, away from like, I think you're right. Like especially for you, like it's much more about like your content and like what you're doing is so cool and different. But if there's one tip you have just in terms of like the aesthetic itself, maybe, do you have something for people?
So I don't obsess over the aesthetic of my feed just because by virtue of what I'm doing and the fact that everything I'm making is in the same medium, I don't really worry about consistency because it's inherently there. But I do try to post a photo of myself at least once a week, just so people remember who I am. I think people really do like to connect to a person.
100%, yep.
So that's important. But I think not thinking too hard about it. I mean, listen, there are some beautiful feeds out there that like all use the same filter, and some people do a really good job of doing like by color.
Okay.
Like all their pictures will be blue, and then all of them will be like, that's so cool. That's so not what I'm able to do.
Yeah.
Another thing for the feed that I've started to discover recently, I used to obsess over posting new content all the time.
Okay.
And I post once a day. I do. It's like a ritual for me.
Okay.
I don't like to skip a day, and I haven't in years. When I went to Burning Man, I had someone do it for me.
Yeah.
Like post every day.
The one day I missed was when I was flying back from Australia. And it's
a
a 17-hour
whole
flight
day.
without Wi-Fi, and it's pretty much like by the time I left, it was too late to post. And honestly, it took like a week for my account to recover. It really is weird. Like there's something in the algorithm where, because they want you to post so much, and like when you don't, they're like, fuck you.
Or even when you post a bad picture, like I feel like I get punished for it. Like sometimes
no,
if I post,
100%.
It's like, it's hard, and like it's, sometimes somebody will come to you and they'll be like, we want to pay you to post this. And it's something that I believe in and support, but don't feel like people will necessarily love the image of. And I have to weigh the money versus like the up to 100 followers I could lose because I'm getting not a lot of likes, and then I'm not getting a lot of likes in the next picture, and the next picture people aren't seeing my things.
100%.
Like it's like, you have to sort of weigh that. I like to say like, if I'm happy with what I'm doing and I'm doing it for pure reasons, then like if people don't want to follow me anymore for that reason, bye. Yeah. Like it's but yeah, no, so I mean that's a thing. And then also I just, reusing old content isn't necessarily a terrible thing. Like I think that, I look at, from last year, I have so many new followers who haven't seen something.
100%, yep.
And so allowing them to see something, it doesn't feel like, I used to think it was cheating, but I don't feel that way.
Yeah, I'll go through that. I mean, one reason I don't is just because like, I just feel like I've developed more of like a look in my photos, and I can only go back so far in months. Even my videos, I look back a year ago, my videos, I'm like, oh god damn, those are terrible. But I will go back and like just maybe like re-edit something, put a new whatever spin on it, and it works. Because you're right, like most people haven't seen it. It's news to them. Like even if they haven't following you the whole time, like you posted at 8 a.m. on a Saturday that time, and they weren't on Instagram and they totally missed it. And then the summer
forget.
Oh, I'm sure people forget. I posted the things that have crushed for me. There's two different food dishes that have absolutely crushed, and I don't really understand why. The French fries from Shaya. Have you ever had them?
No.
They look unique, but they're just whatever. I post them 3 times, each time 40,000 likes.
Wow.
And then most recently, the little everything bagel pigs in a blanket from upstairs at Second
Yeah,
Avenue Deli.
those are
They're
good.
just, they're delicious and they're pigs in a blanket. They're not wackadoo foods.
Right, but they're so
people
on brand
love
for you,
them. I
like that
guess so.
Jewishy, like with a Jewishy with a twist.
Sure, is that what my brand is?
It's an element of your brand.
Sure, I guess so. There's no hiding it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, I get it. It's just like if people are following you, that's the kind of content they're going to see.
That and me eating gigantic foods.
Yeah, that's a
People
thing.
love
That's a whole genre.
seeing like like me dying on
Yeah.
giant foods. That's all they want.
That is a whole genre. It's so funny.
Okay, so I know you brought some treats for me, so everyone could sort of take a look, and we have them right here. And these are
They're avocado toast
Oh,
because I
look
went
at
with
that.
your brunchy vibe. Yeah.
Let's see if everyone can see them.
So we have.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
They're not
So
gonna fall.
four. Probably not.
Okay.
It's hot out, but 4 varieties of everyone's favorite brunch. It's not my favorite brunch thing. My favorite brunch thing is probably like a bagel, but
It actually is, I think, it's
everyone's
my
second favorite brunch food. Avocado
So we have like
toast.
normal,
normal,
lox, eggs,
yeah, tomato.
and tomato.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to eat all of them. And I like what your treats are. You can eat all of them.
Yeah,
I
everything's
found like
edible.
sometimes it's like food things like you can't.
Oh yeah, no. I think that's the other thing. Like even just like
Put them right
even
back.
like dealing like I see a lot of people on Instagram who I'm so envious of who are making these beautiful cakes using fondant.
Right.
And I don't make cakes. Like what I do is so different. But sometimes I'm like, ooh, maybe I should get into that. And I'm like, wait, I know who I am, and like
Right.
I like to use candy. Like everything that I used on this is candy that you can buy at a grocery store.
Yeah, what
So-
exactly were on these?
Here, should we get it back?
Sure, yeah. Pull it back, pick it back up.
I will walk you through it. So these are airheads, orange airheads, and these are all the jelly slices, like the Passover candy.
Right, okay.
And then everything, like, so these are sprinkles that look like chili flakes. These
What are
are
the eggs made out of?
the egg is icing. It's all icing. Yeah, everything.
I don't want to break it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, should we get like yolk porn? Like, I bet you we get like good. But yeah, so everything you can, like, everything that I use is really, widely available and it's so easy to do. Like, I always, I send in my book, like, it's so nice that, I have no training because that means that like regular people at home.
They said that about Orson Welles.
Oh, really?
They said, so he came up with all these like amazing techniques for movie making.
Yeah.
And pretty much because he was never trained, so he didn't have these rules in his head of
Right.
like, I couldn't do this.
Yeah.
And he had no concept that you couldn't do these things,
Right.
so you shouldn't do these things.
The same thing with people who write all the time. Like, I went and got a master's degree in creative writing, and then sometimes you read something that's just absolutely stunning, and it's by someone who has no writing education, and you're like, yeah, it's because like they didn't learn all of these rules that sometimes tend to hold people back.
Yeah.
You like overthink it. Yeah, that's like me and not going to pastry school. Even though my sister went to pastry school, and
Oh, I didn't know that.
oh yeah, no, she did. So she likes it. She likes to tell me what I'm
Is she
doing
bitter
wrong.
about it?
No, but I tortured her the entire time that she was in pastry school, and so it's just like I have to live with that. No.
Okay, well, if you want to know more about you, you have a book people can buy.
Book. It's called
everywhere.
Treat Yourself.
Okay.
Available wherever books are sold, and
Okay.
also on my Instagram.
Right, and they can follow you just to make sure.
Yes, it's Mr. Krisp. It's MISTER _KRISP on Instagram.
Cool. Anything else you want to? Any other advice?
No,
Chat about
just
anything?
just be yourself.
I like that. I think that's like at the end of the day
Yeah.
the biggest piece of advice for like having some sort of influencer thing and being an influencer.
Yeah.
Be yourself and don't fake it, because
Do you?
that's good about it. Cool. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. This is so fun.